The Heckler & Koch G11 is a prototype assault rifle that started development in 1967. It was developed by Gesellschaft für Hosen-Losen-Gewehrsystem, German for Association of Caseless Rifle Systems, which was a joint venture by Heckler & Koch, weapon design and mechanical engineering, Dynamit Nobel, responsible for the ammunition design, and Hensoldt Wetzlar for the optics. The rifle was designed to fire special caseless cartridges out of long 50-round magazines. The project was primarily headed by West Germany as a replacement to the recently adopted G3 battle rifle for the Bundeswehr. Although other NATO partners had it under testing, and it was entered into the US's ACR program. History and design. It was the Cold War. The Soviet Union and later the Warsaw Pact threatened the sovereignty of the European nations, and Germany was in trouble. NATO was formed to help supply logistics in Western countries and make military standardization easier. In theory, this would be great for Western countries. But in reality, the Western countries had too many differences in military philosophy and took too long to decide on a main rifle cartridge. After years of testing and arguments, mostly due to the USA's insistence on a cartridge bigger than 30 caliber, the American .308 Winchester was adopted as the NATO battle rifle cartridge and was dubbed the 7.62 by 51 NATO. The rifles that used the cartridge were the American M14, the German G3, the Belgian FAL, used by Britain and most other NATO members, and many other rifles. The bigger caliber cartridge had many problems, as the higher recoil of this cartridge made full auto impractical. The rounds were heavy and only held 20 rounds in a standard magazine, and these disadvantages outweigh the better ballistic performance of 7.62 NATO. The solution was to find a smaller caliber for use by the NATO allies. Development of the G11 began when NATO started looking for a smaller caliber rifle ammunition to use. NATO quickly gave up on the concept of caseless ammunition, but West Germany still saw hope in the idea and started a study into a future assault rifle concept, and awarded 3 contracts to 3 companies, including Heckler & Koch. The West German government specified a rifle with a hit probability higher than any in current production while fulfilling the FINA-Bale rate of fire and range characteristics. HK believed that this accuracy cannot be achieved with iron sights, so they cooperated with Hensoldt Wetzlar to create a small sight that can be used with 2 eyes. But the concept was dropped in favor of a reflector sight based on an older patent. In 1970 to 1971, Heckler & Koch and Dynamit Nobel searched for a suitable ammunition and feeding system. The 1970 studies allowed for construction of a 50-round box magazine and semi-auto and 3-round burst. No full auto model was available yet. 9x19mm was used to test dispersion at a fire rate of 1400 RPM. By October 1971, the weapon was completed with full auto and chambered in 4.9mm caseless, feeding from the side. In 1973, NATO appointed West Germany to develop a smaller caliber rifle to go along with the existing 7.62 rifles. The caliber of the G11 was changed to 4.3mm, delaying the testing of the prototypes. In 1974, HK presented the prototype one to the Bundeswehr and were subsequently awarded a development contract worth 20 million marks. Many changes happened to the weapon during the development phase, including a change from a reflex sight to a scope. The caliber was changed multiple times, and in 1977, 3 G11 prototypes entered NATO trials and won. The Bundeswehr contract ended in 1978, and HK, Hensoldt, Dynamit Nobel had to continue development with their own funds. On 28 October 1980, NATO adopted the 5.56mm cartridge as the main rifle cartridge, a second small caliber for use. In March 1987, after extensive developments and improvements, the G11K1 was finalized and tested, and in 1989, 5 units were shipped to the USA for tests in the ACR program, and in May, HK instructors were sent to the testing grounds. In April 1990, the FODTP finally certified the G11 for use in the Bundeswehr, and contracts were ready for sale. But in April 1, the Warsaw Pact expired, and the walls fell, leaving the German government with more financial responsibilities, less enemies, and more Kalashnikov rifles. And the G11's adoption was cancelled due to costs and logistics. And in the same year, the US ACR program was ended with no winner of the contracts. By 2004, all developments of the platform ceased. Weapon features. The G11 fed from 50-round box magazines from the front of the rifle. It had a fire rate of 600 RPM in full auto and a cadence of 1400 RPM in 3-round bursts. The reason for the increased fire rate in the 3-round burst was to allow the shooter to line up 3 shots before feeling recoil and increasing shot probability and accuracy. The G11 had a special futuristic design, so it made up for a good prop in the media. In the 1993 movie Demolition Man, the G11 mock-up was labeled as a particle accelerator. It was also the weapon used by soldiers in the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion. It also appeared in many video games, and it was popular on Fallout 2 due to its design. My favorite appearance was in Call of Duty Black Ops 1 due to its Cold War settings.